Are you ready to create a content plan for 2022? So we're going to talk about some strategies. I'm going to give you some tips and some ideas. I'm going to give you some prompts where I want you to actually write some ideas down. So again, grab your pen and paper. Let's do this. So here's the deal. The first thing I need you to think about is your customer journey. The very first thing you have to think about is, where are these people? Okay. And so what I mean by this is, you have a process. There's a process that people go through when they are getting to a place to make a decision. Now, there's multiple layers of decisions, multiple, phases of decisions that people are going to make. So people are going to find you. They're going to discover you somehow. They're going to do some research. They're going to kind of poke around your social media. Maybe they might check out your website. If you're on YouTube, they might go look at a couple of your old videos. They're probably going to look and see how recently you've been uploading videos. So that's something that's critical, is making sure that it looks active, right? Looks like the lights are on back home. They're going to do that research. And then if they decide that you're somebody they want to hang out with or follow, they're going to probably subscribe to you or follow you, right? If you have some opt-ins, like some freebies and stuff, they may even get one of those lead magnets and subscribe to your email list over on your website, which I highly recommend if you haven't done that already. So that's kind of like the first layer of decisions. But then as they continue to learn from you, they are eventually going to get to a place, hopefully, where they make a decision about whether or not they can become a paying customer or a paying supporter or someone who trusts you and buys something that you recommend. So back, previous to the way the digital world works now, this customer journey was simple. It was like, hey, do some networking, meet some people, do some advertising. They're going to kind of maybe check you out, just make some decisions. They might call you, talk to you, and then they make a decision about whether or not they're going to buy your product or join your program or whatever. And that's it. But now there's all these different ways that we can actually make money in how we create content. And so again, the whole customer journey used to be kind of like boom, 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 boom. Now they can go in different lanes, right? So a lot of people will say to me, well, I create content, but I don't have a program, and, I don't really do one-on-one. This is sort of just a side thing I'm doing. Okay, well, you can still make money. You can use things like Patreon, buy me a coffee. You can have subscriptions set up on your YouTube channel if it's monetized. You can actually create a membership if you want, where people can pay to come hang out with you and to get this content from you. You could be an affiliate. You can be recommending products using your affiliate links, making money that way. So you don't have to have your own products to make money. And that's something that's changed big time in the world. And so there's a lot of different ways we have to think about this customer journey. But the thing that I want you to really think about the most is I want you to think about the people who are coming into your world. Are you attracting the correct people? And when they come into your world, what are their problems? Where are they stuck? What questions do they have, right? What do they need to learn? Or maybe what do you need to help them, how to motivate them or inspire them to believe in moving forward in their personal journey towards being ready for your services. So again, sometimes people come into your world and they are like, they come in because, like, some of you are jewelry makers, artists, right? Doug at Smackdown Outdoors, someone might come into his world because they're interested in ice fishing, right? Well, guess what? They come in, they're that focus. Well, what about somebody like me who has never ice fished in my life, but I saw him talking about something and I thought, well, that looks really cool. And then I come in and all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm not ice fishing. Why would I ever want to go sit out in the cold? That just sounds so terrible and so boring. Like, I like fishing because I like the activity of it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm not convinced. I don't want to ice fish, right? But Doug's content, I'm using him as an example, but I want you to think of your own specific thing. But Doug's content, he could actually start to talk about how, a lot of people like to fly fish because of the warm weather, this or that. Well, in ice fishing, you can set up a hut. Here's how the huts work. I don't know how they work. I just know enough to be dangerous, right? It's really not as hard as you think. They actually have these tools. They're called augers, and you can drill holes in the ice. And all of a sudden, I'm now learning stuff I didn't know before because I never considered myself interested at all. But because he's explaining things to me and maybe showing me a few things, I'm intrigued and I'm like, interesting. Where would I ice fish? Doug can say, hey, if you're located in the Midwest, here are some really great places where you can go ice fish. And here's what you need to know, though. You're going to need a special kind of license. You're going to need this. What is he doing? What's he helping me with? He's helping me. He's basically teaching me stuff so that now my decision before was, I'm not interested in ice fishing. It's not for me. But he's now sharing stuff with me. And it's like, now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm kind of interested in ice fishing. By the way, Doug, what lures do you recommend? Oh, cool. Sweet. Awesome. I'll click these links and I'll go buy that auger. I'll go buy that tent. I'll go buy that. Doug just shared his affiliate links, right? So that's kind of a one quick example. But the reason why I want to share this with you is because so often we think about our customer journey and we think about the customers that are a good fit already. But there are people watching your content. There are people in your channel. There are people following you that are maybe not what we would call a good fit yet. I want you to focus on that. Say it with me, yet, right? Just because someone's not a good fit today doesn't mean you can't get them ready to become a good fit. The other thing that we see that happens a lot, I'll give you an example for myself. So I teach people how to go live. I have a program. It's a live video boot camp. When the program started, when I first started teaching about live videos, I was literally teaching people how to go live for the very first time on a phone. That was it. Things have changed. My audience has changed. My audience has matured. The industry of live video has changed. People are now coming to me for a very different type of solution. They're coming to me to level up their live streams. They're coming to me to now say, I want to do this and do it consistently. They need a strategy. So I can still create a program and teach people how to go live for the first time, or I can just move that into my free content and then make my program more advanced. That way, the people who need to learn the basics, they can go learn the basics on their own. And then when they're ready, then they can enroll in my program. So that's because, to be honest with you, it's not that I don't love to teach people to go live, but literally my program is not for somebody who is literally brand new to social media, has no business yet, and they're just kind of like, I want to create a business, so therefore I'm enrolling in your program. It really is for people that are already creating content, ready to become a business, make it actually help them make money, or they have a business and this is a gap in their content, right? So I could still create a program for those people, but if I create a program and take care of those people, it's taking up my time and I'm not able to help these people. So if I want to focus over here, I need to help these people get ready and help them in my free content to become here, right? So you're taking them on a journey. And that journey is not only helping them get to know you, to trust you, but the journey you're taking them on might actually be getting them ready for your stuff, okay? So that's actually something I want you to focus on when you're thinking about your content, right? What questions do people have? Where are they stuck? If they're not ready for your services, if they're not ready for ice fishing, what do you need to teach them to convince them that ice fishing could be for them? How can you help them make a decision? Now, sometimes what happens is we think, well, what if they decide that they don't want to go ice fishing? What if they actually learn everything I teach them and they're like, that is so not for me? That's fine. That's totally fine. They might unsubscribe from you. They might unfollow you. They might leave. And you know what? That's okay. That is actually great, because you're creating polarizing content. You're creating content to attract the right people into your world so that they can create a network of their own. They can create a community of followers for you. Your followers are a community of their own that you are fostering. You are the leader. All of you in the comments, Abigail, Cynthia, James, Doug, The Artist Haven, Dr. Vibe Show, Anna, so many more of you, right? Mariano, you are a community in the comments. So often I see somebody will ask a question and they'll be like, hey, so-and-so. Cynthia's always so good. She's always so good with shout outs. Cynthia is the Purple Paisley Planner. Annette, she's always so good with shout outs, saying hi. Everybody's saying hi to each other. And guess what? A lot of you followed each other, checked each other out. You know, you're a community of your own. I'm fostering the community. You're in my backyard hanging out. We're all hanging out, drinking Tito's, whatever, right? Your content, you want your community to kind of be in the same place, right? What is community? The definition of community, people who have a common interest that are joining together, right? They're in a room together. If you try to create content that fits everybody's needs, your community isn't going to have that same close connection, right? And so when you create this content and somebody decides ice fishing's not for them, I'm picking on Doug today. Doug does more than just ice fishing. But if, let's just say it was only ice fishing. If literally he's got all these deer hunters in there and they decide, no, we don't want to ice fish. Well, why would he want deer hunters? This is just an example, everybody. Deer hunters in there who want to get him to talk about deer hunting. And he's like, oh yeah, I went deer hunting last weekend. Well, all the ice fishers are like, why are we talking about deer hunting? This channel's about ice fishing. Then they're going to be like, what? What are we talking about? So when you actually create content and somebody decides that your stuff isn't for them, it's actually a celebration. We want to celebrate that because it means that you're pruning, you're narrowing, your audience is able to be in the correct room, right? With you. And that's what you want. You don't want to attract people that aren't a good fit. You don't want to attract people that aren't going to fit your culture, for all kinds of reasons. So we definitely want to make sure that our content is focused. Now, some of you might be like, I don't know what my content is. Doug might be like, I want to talk about ice fishing and bass fishing and hunting and all the things. That's okay. Also, if you're not totally sure about where you want to kind of narrow in, then start experimenting. Talk about lots of things. I used to talk about all kinds of stuff: social media, business strategy, apps, design apps. I mean, I was all over the place. I really started narrowing in on live video, and then also stuff to support your live video journey, right? It's kind of all the same stuff, but I kind of narrowed it into this umbrella of I'm a live video creator and I help people make great live videos and I help them use live video to reach their goals. I still get to talk about a lot of the other things, but I'm talking about it in relation to live video. So it doesn't mean that you're never going to talk about some of these other things that you're passionate about. It just might mean that you're going to kind of lean in, figure out where you need to lean in. And the best place to lean in is where your audience is leaning to you. Okay? What kind of questions are you getting? What are the common questions that you're continuing to get over and over and over? Doug says, can I bring scotch instead of Tito's? Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. I like scotch too. Definitely. So definitely bring whatever you want. Anna's liking what we're saying. She's picking up what we're putting down here. So what have you all written down so far? What have you taken away so far from everything I'm talking about so far? What are we all talking about? Or what are y'all thinking about? Let me know what we're doing. Doug says he's going to get me ice fishing one day for sure. Okay. So if you have questions for me, like my friend, my moderator, my guy, James Hicks, put a Q in front of it. If you have questions for me, put a Q in front of it. I'm going to be using the starred comments feature in StreamYard. It's such a helpful feature. Again, just another reason why you should be checking out StreamYard. You can actually now star a comment and it will put it into a queue for you. So definitely put the Q in front of your comment and I will look at it, see it, grab it, and I will put it into a queue. The Oracle Spirit Wellness says, when you are authentic and people trust, even if they are not your customer, they will recommend you to your ideal client. I love that you said this. I love that you said this because it is absolutely true. Some people might just be entertained by you. Some people might just be genuinely there to support you, but they may not be a perfect customer. For example, not that I don't love Doug and SmackDown Outdoors because he actually does talk about a lot of things I'm interested in. I was talking about his channel one day and then CK's Antics, who sometimes is watching live with us too. She's like, oh, sweet. And she sent me a message. She's like, hey, thanks for recommending. I love his channel. I've been watching it. There you go. So, CK actually loves to ice fish. She actually does ice fish. So perfect, right? Great example. So we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that a little bit more in just a moment because it is one of my tips. So he's like, I actually do cover fishing and hunting depending on the time of year. You can be seasonal with your content if it makes sense. That is totally true. So again, your business, whatever it is, you may have seasons in your content. So that's something for you to look at. I always tell people if they're going to be planning content, with a calendar, there's a few things to consider. And we're not going to get too deep into the calendar stuff today. Maybe I'll do another show about the calendar. I think I have an old show where we talked about planning a calendar, but you actually have to look at things, look at events, look at things as the seasons of your business. What's going on during the year? Is there a big launch? Is there a big conference that goes on where after, does the school year affect your business and the season of your business, right? You should definitely be thinking about that kind of stuff because your audience, if there's anything seasonal that affects you, then you have to make sure your content can respond to that for sure. Lauren says, help prep people for objections using your own creative journey as an example. Yeah, share your own story. Absolutely. And I love how she said, help prep people for objections. People are going to kind of have that limiting belief or maybe an objection. If you know what those objections are, if Doug's like, oh, I'm going to convince her to go ice fishing, he probably has already heard people talk about why would you want to sit out in the freezing cold? And he's like, well, you don't. So an objection would be, I don't want to sit in the freezing cold. Well, guess what? You don't. We actually have heaters. You can sit and drink beer if you want, and like bring a radio with you. There's all kinds of cool gear that we've made. Like he's meeting that objection. He can actually create content that meets the objection. So objections are a great way to kind of create content as well. Cynthia says we're going to be thinking about ice fishing for the rest of the day. I actually agree with that. It's going to be funny. Anna says, I love how you put it. I've heard that before, and I kept thinking that by narrowing down, I was not able to talk about the other things I know. So it's a great way to put it. Yeah. So that goes back to essentially, I used to really suffer from that too. I used to think I'm so multi-passionate about so many different things. I don't want to like narrow in. I don't want to hone in to one thing. And you don't have to. You absolutely do not have to. So I still get to talk about Canva. I still get to talk about apps. We're going to talk about some of those apps today. And I still get to talk about like just marketing and business strategy, right? So I love talking about all those things, and I'm not going to stop. Okay. So one of the things that you're, as I mentioned, is thinking about that customer journey. So get yourself in that mindset of your customer, and be thinking about it. What I want you to do is I want you to come up with frequently asked questions and should have asked questions. And honestly, each of you should be able to, when you sit down in whatever space you need to, sit down and write down at least 10 frequently asked questions and write down 10 should have asked questions. I always say 10. People say, that's a lot. But guess what's going to happen? When you get to the 10th one, you probably have 5 more. So go for 15, okay? Stretch yourself. Here's the deal. Frequently asked questions are amazing content ideas. They are some of the best content ideas you will have. So frequently asked questions are gold when it comes to creating content. And I am not the first person to say this. In fact, if you're a regular follower of the show and we've talked about content before, you've heard me talk about this. I have an entire podcast episode about this where we talk about the frequently asked questions and the should have asked questions. Now, frequently asked questions are the questions you get all the time, right? So going back to Doug, we're picking on Doug today. One of the frequently asked questions that he might get is, how the heck do you get the hole drilled in the ice? Like, how long does it take, right? Well, he can talk about, here are the 5 different types of augers. You can have a manual auger, you can have an electric auger, you can have a gas-operated auger. I'm making stuff up. I don't know. You can use a sledgehammer. That sounds very dangerous. Anyway, he can actually talk about that process because people ask about it all the time. Also, sometimes they might ask a question. You can take that question and you can go deep with it, right? You can also take multiple questions that are related and put them together as well. But having a list of 10 to 15 frequently asked questions is literally 10 to 15 podcast episodes, 10 to 15 live streams, 10 to 15 videos that you create and edit and upload to your YouTube channel, 10 to 15 blog posts, right? 10 to 15 anything, a course. It could even be a course if you wanted to, right? So frequently asked questions are amazing. Now, should have asked questions are the questions that people should be asking, but they're not asking. Now, the reason why they may not be asking the questions could be a couple things. It could be because they're afraid to ask the question, they're insecure to ask the question, or they're like feeling bashful. This is actually common in certain industries. Like marriage counseling is perfect. Marriage counseling, you're probably not going to get a lot of particular questions in your live streams or even in conversations because they feel insecure. They aren't feeling, comfortable about it, right? So should have asked questions. They don't ask them because they might be afraid or insecure. So therefore, if you go ahead and address what they should be asking and you do it proactively and they don't have to ask you, think about what you just did for them. She just answered, I've been thinking about that. I've been wondering about it, but I haven't felt comfortable talking to anybody about it. And look what you just did. You just made their day. Now, the other reason why some people don't ask certain questions is because they simply don't have enough information. Maybe they don't know what they don't know. This goes back to, when I was talking about where are they in the customer journey? Are they even ready for what it is that you sell or do? Maybe you need to be answering the questions that they would be asking if they were aware so that you can be educating them to bring them along, right? For example, I'll give you an example. One of the should have asked questions that I sometimes talk about is, should you be multi-streaming? Some people will be like, what is multi-streaming? They have no idea. They had no idea that you could even do it. And here I'm like, hey, you need to consider whether or not you should be multi-streaming to multiple channels at the same time. And here are some things to think about if you're going to do that. That's an example of a question in my community where a lot of people are like, I didn't even know you could do that. So I didn't even know I didn't even know that I should be thinking or considering that, or maybe I should or shouldn't. Most likely, if they didn't know they could even do it, they're probably not quite to a place where they should, right? But my point is that that's an example in my world. So what are some questions that you don't get asked that you wish people would ask? Because if they asked it, it would give you an opportunity to help them, or even to pitch to them, or even to sell to them, right? So, that's one of those things I like to say. So frequently asked questions and should have asked questions. We got Doc Rock in the house. Don't be causing trouble. Don't be causing trouble. Don't be causing trouble over there, Doc Rock. Hello. How is it going, my friend? It's good to see you. It's always good to see you. I've actually heard Doc talk about this in his own content. This exact same thing I'm saying and he says, I always ask in interviews, what is the question people don't ask that they should be asking? So he totally agrees. And I have heard Doc talk about this exact same thing, is the should have asked questions. So you can really demystify some things and really be somebody's hero by the best reaction when you create content that's addressing a should have asked question. The best reaction you can get is someone going, huh, I didn't even know that. That is awesome. Oh, I didn't even know. You just like opened their eyes to something. You just blew their mind, right? Like you just became their hero, right? That can happen. So you're guiding them along, but absolutely address those should have asked questions. Sometimes the should have asked questions, I will tell you, can be harder to come up with than the frequently asked questions. So dig deep, keep working at it, come up with 10 should have asked questions. In fact, why don't you just go ahead and tell me what's a should have asked question in your world that people should be asking? What should they be asking you? Or what is it you wish they would ask you to give you the opportunity to talk about something you love to talk about, but they just don't ask? What is one of those? Type it in the comments. I want to know for sure. James Hicks says, your thoughts on trying something new with content creation. For instance, instead of always doing video, adding audio. Yes. So this is what is called multiple format content. Okay. So I mentioned multi-streaming, but multi-format content. So for example, you might be having a live video. You might have a YouTube channel where you're creating videos all the time. You have a couple options here if you want to start looking at audio. You can actually repurpose the audio from your live stream, and StreamYard makes this super easy. When you're done with your live video, you literally can go into your video library and export the audio only into an MP3 file, and you have your podcast episode. You just might need to do some editing to it, add an intro and outro, voila, you have a podcast episode. So you can repurpose the audio from your live streams or any video you do. This is actually very common. This is becoming more and more common, actually. The other thing that you can do is you can actually have two totally different formats. Let's say we take one of those frequently asked questions. You could actually create a whole podcast episode around it, and then you can create a video around it, and you can make them a little different, or you can make them the same. You can literally do it the same. You can do a video, and then you can do an audio version of it only. What I really like to do, to be honest with you, is if I have a podcast episode and I'm like, ooh, that was really good, I liked it, I may go live and use video to drive traffic to the podcast episode. So let's say I share 5 tips over on a particular podcast episode. Well, I might go over here and do a live video and talk about one of them and take a really deep dive. And then I might say, by the way, I have a podcast episode where I give you 4 more tips related to XYZ. And now you're driving traffic to the audio. So there's a couple of things to think about here. Again, you can basically repurpose and have the content just repurposed on in different formats. Or you can basically take the idea, create a video, take the idea, create a podcast episode. A lot of people like to do that. Or you can know in your strategy that you have a main hub, a main place, and maybe it's video right now. Well, guess what? You've been creating videos, James. You've been doing live streams. You probably know what some of your best performing videos were. Start with those, look at them. You can either take the audio and repurpose it right away, or you can look at that and say, that's a topic everybody really liked. People jazzed up about it. I'm going to go record a podcast episode about that. So that's actually another strategy that I highly recommend is what is working on one platform? What are people resonating with? I know for a fact that over in my podcast, people love my episodes about content ideas, how to come up with, more strategies for content. People love content ideas. They love it when I give them tips for creating content ideas, content strategy, all that stuff. Those episodes always do well. They're my highest performing episodes. And so I always know that I want to I love talking about it. But you guys, it's funny because when I talk about stuff with live, a lot of you are asking me about gear, tech stuff, things like that, when I also want you asking questions about your content strategies, but you don't, because you look to me for the tech and the other things to support you. So your should have asked questions I'm addressing today. I'm literally addressing what I wish you were asking me today in this particular stream. So that's an example of me taking this exact technique that I'm talking about and putting it into this. I know what's working on the podcast. I know that the people listening to my podcast are a lot of the same people watching this show. They're the same types of businesses. They're the same types of entrepreneurs. So if those people are liking it, you're probably going to like it too. You just are used to watching me on video and talking about tech and gear and lights and LED lights and lava lamps, right? But I can bring these ideas over to this platform too. So James, I definitely support it. I definitely think that what I don't support is you saying, I want to create a podcast, so I'm going to create this podcast about something totally different. You need to have a completely separate strategy if it's a completely separate audience and a separate topic. Know this though, the audiences that watch or listen to podcasts might be totally different than the people watching your videos. The other thing you have to think about is they're not seeing you on camera. They're going to be listening to you. So not to put any pressure on, sometimes you got to bring it a little more in an audio version than a video because they're not watching you. They can't see the fancy lights, the fancy camera. They're just listening. They're in a different headspace when they listen. So sometimes you do have to kind of tweak the way you deliver the content and the way you explain it. You have to be really focused and really succinct over on the podcast because people are busy, just like a regular uploaded video. A live stream can be an hour, 2 hours. People will just hang out with you, whatever. But when you're teaching something, be to the point, right? So you have to also kind of think about some of those things too. But that was a great question. And I certainly appreciate you asking that. Okay. I definitely want to check in on the comments because I haven't seen some of these comments yet because I was going on a tangent right there, right? Let's see here. This is a good idea. Doc says, I love it. I love it. And when any host asks the guest stuff others don't ask. Like, please don't ask a developer when the next version is coming out. They cannot tell you. Oh, I'm not even really sure what you're saying right there, Doc, but it's okay. Should have asked question. Here's an example. Oracle Spirit Wellness says, the should have asked question is how to interview an Oracle deck. There you go. So she has one that she came up with. Let's see. Lauren has one. How do you make jewelry that doesn't fade in color over time? Great. So there's a topic for you, right? So you can, heck, I'm assuming that topic right there, Lauren, and here's something else that y'all can do. Sometimes the question is beefy and juicy enough that maybe there are like four levels to the answer. Make it 4 different pieces of content. So I'm sure there's multiple things that come into play. How do you make jewelry that doesn't fade in color over time? My guess is proper materials, quality of materials, right, is going to be something possibly important. Maybe there's some techniques. Maybe there's some other things, right, that go into play there. Maybe there's jewelry care. How do you take care of your jewelry so it doesn't fade? Those are 3 different answers to one question. Those could be 3 different episodes right there. So one question just turned into three pieces of content. And then let me give you a 4th idea. Do a 4th version that goes through all 3 of those. There you go. So I just gave you 4 ideas for that one question that you came up with. James, that was a loaded question. I wanted MDH to go into this. Got some one-on-one right there, some tips right there, some advice, right? Okay. Eileen is here. Hello, Eileen. Eileen Smith. It's awesome to see you in the comments. I love it when you're able to join us live. It's always good to see you. Eileen has an awesome channel as well. Definitely go check that out over there for sure. So, okay. So we are, let's see. Doc says, facts. I am ridiculously awesome at ideation. I'm underutilized because all I get are stupid gear questions. Well then, Doc, maybe you should just go forth with it all, right? You are good. You have great ideas. You're really good at that stuff. So make sure that you are pushing that out there. Okay, so let me take care of that. I see a couple of, oh, nice. So Tyson Hockley says, I have 2.63 thousand to 2,600 subscribers and still not monetized. I'm at about 3,500 watch hours. Okay, so give Tyson some ideas. Tyson, I know having a lot of content is definitely key. So more content, long live streams, but also really good like videos, shorter videos that are going to get lots of views over time. The algorithm is going to serve that video up over time. Definitely keep focusing on that. Keep pushing. Also drive traffic to your content. Drive traffic to it. Don't be afraid to talk about a previous video in some of your new videos for sure. So Bowling with the Fef says, what podcast hosting tool do you use? Personally, I use Buzzsprout. I actually love Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout is so easy. You upload your episode and it will publish it everywhere. So you don't have to worry about like where it's one of the best ones out there. One of the reasons I love Buzzsprout is that they have what's called dynamic content and it's not extra. Okay. So it is a paid subscription. So Buzzsprout, you do want to pay for Buzzsprout. There's like a 90-day, you can do it for free, but your episodes will come down after like 90 days. But dynamic content will allow you, this is a great idea. So let's say you just released a really awesome video, going back to Tyson, and you have a podcast too. Well, you can create a short little 30-second clip and say, hey, before this episode gets started, I want to make sure that you know that I have a YouTube channel. So head on over to @TysonHockley and subscribe to the channel because I just put a really great video that's about blah, 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 right? That's called dynamic content. It's a temporary it's almost like an ad. You have an intro one and you can do a totally separate one on the back end and it's going to literally, you can select which episodes that dynamic content goes before and after. You hear this a lot, but you don't have to record it in your episode. You can actually turn it on and then turn it off. So if you're ever promoting anything, you can run these little commercials and it's not extra. A lot of the other, podcast hosts actually charge for that stuff. So Buzzsprout is who I use. I love it. Plus, honestly, I like the interface. It's easy to use. So easy. I just think it's one of the, I looked at a lot of them and I love it. So that's the one that I personally use. Okay. I'm just checking it. I'm checking up on you guys for your stuff. So Smackdown Outdoors, he says, I'm going to record an ice fishing myths video this weekend. Yes. I love myth busting. So those should have asked questions are actually kind of like myths as well. Plus as Lauren said earlier, objections, right? Lauren was talking about what are the objections you're getting. You should be creating content meeting objections. So, I should have said frequently asked questions, should have asked questions and objections. Because objections, also great content. So Lauren, I really appreciate you sharing that for sure earlier because that 100% is one of those things that for sure should be asked. Okay, so I'm gonna check on the comments here and I'm gonna get to my next. Podbean is also an option. Yep, there's so many out there. Oh my gosh, it's so many out there. Okay, so let me see here. I'm checking on the comments. I see a couple questions coming in. There we go. I was hoping that Doc or somebody would chime in here. So he says go live. So he says easy watch time is right here. Go live, boom, done. I pull 500 hours I'd watch time in 1 or 2 live streams. Yeah. Here's the key to your live videos though. Don't just go live. Be thoughtful about your title, be thoughtful about the description. If you create content, again, following this strategy, what content are people needing from you? What can you help? How can you serve them? How can you get them unstuck? Go live and don't be afraid to go live for a while, right? We've been live for an hour now. We're going to keep going. So don't be afraid to block that time out in your calendar. I mean, heck, sometimes Doc is live for like 3 hours. Like I've seen him go live many times and he will literally be live for 3 hours talking and answering questions. And you'll be like, people are not going to watch a 3-hour live stream. They may not, right? We had, somebody earlier, they're like, I got to go. I'll be back. Like people might watch the beginning. They might leave. Guess what? We have new people jumping in. Eileen wasn't here when we got started, but she's here now, right? So people are going to come and go. So there is, of course, the strategy about how you conduct a live stream to keep people engaged, keep them watching. But he's right. Live video is going to get you watch time. And Tyson says, I find that when I do live streams, I get a lot of watch time. So there you go. So keep going live. Definitely make the live happen. I do love this as well. Urban van life. I love this. Make content count. Don't just make a video for the sake of it. Give the viewer value for the time they're spending with you. Value is the key word here. I agree. Don't create content just to create content. You need to be bringing value. What can you help them with? Somebody said earlier, Don't sell, like be helpful, help people, be helpful. I used to say, man, I'm not going to call it a marketing strategy anymore. I'm going to call it a helping strategy, right? Because so many people think of marketing and they think of, how can I make money? How can I get more people to come into my program? How can I sell more? How can I get more eyes on my products? How can I get more people to walk in my door? Focus on helping and the sales will come. So let's stop calling it a marketing strategy. Let's call it a helping strategy. How can you help people? Your content should be bringing value for sure. So Jennifer has a question for us. In the future, will you cover tips for keeping viewers longer than a minute or 3 on live streams? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I was just talking about that a little bit. Yes, I will definitely do that, Jennifer. I super duper appreciate that. That is a great idea. Biggest thing is you got to have an agenda. Don't give away all the good stuff in the beginning. Let them know there's more coming. You can kind of do that as you're going and answer their questions, right? Address the audience. That's key. People don't want to be ignored. That's for sure. So you definitely, all those things as a producer. Use the comments, bring the comments up, address the audience. Don't just get on and talk. I will tell you that for live video, engaging with your audience is really critical. It's really important. If you're not going to engage with your audience or talk to your audience, if you just want to get on there and create content, then don't make it a live video. Just don't make it a live video. Make it a shorter video that's punchy, tutorial, gets to the point. Because honestly, people will respect that. They'll appreciate it because you're being respectful with their time. But when you're live, we tend to kind of go on and banter and this and that. People don't want you to just stand up on stage and be passionate and go on and on and on about stuff. They're there live with you. Think of it as they're sitting at the table with you. You don't want to dominate the conversation. You want to address your audience, answer their questions, just basically acknowledge them, right? Simply acknowledge that they're there and they're talking to you. That's the biggest thing for sure that I would recommend on that one. Okay. You guys ready to keep going? We're going to keep going. We're going to keep moving. Definitely want to get in here. Okay. Do you have to upload the live stream to your YouTube feed for the watch hours to count? Is it possible to live stream and not upload it? So when you go live on YouTube, it's going to be an upload. Okay. It's actually going to be in your video library, part of your YouTube studio. If your video is set to private or unlisted, it will not count towards your watch hours. So you don't have to add it to your playlist. I'll just show you what I'm talking about here. So if I go to, whoops, type in the right place here. All right, let me see. Go to my channel. Actually, I'll just go to a different channel. We'll go to StreamYard's channel. Since they're powering our stream today, right? I'm using StreamYard. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen using StreamYard. Oops, share the correct one here. All right, so here is the StreamYard's YouTube channel. If you do a live video, okay, you can set it to go to a playlist automatically. As you can see here, these are the live stream shows that I do for them every Wednesday. These are automatically added to a playlist. That you don't have to do something like that for it to count towards your watch hours. Any video you upload or even go live is going to show up right here in the videos tab, whether you put it on playlists or not. A live stream will count towards your watch hours as long as it is public. It has to be public for it to count. So Gregory, to answer your question, now you can also trim it and do some other things. You can repurpose it, upload it again, but it's 100% going to count towards your watch hours as long as it's public. So it has to be public for it to count towards those watch hours. But all videos you do, live streams and uploads, are going to show up here, and it's going to show up, and you can go here and you can organize past live streams. So these are all the live videos, and then these are the uploads. But live videos do count towards an upload already, automatically. You don't have to do anything to make it count towards that. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. See if I have any other questions. Do we have any other questions? Yes, thank you. It was Dr. Vibe Show. He's the one that was saying, teach more, sell less. Yes, thank you for repeating that for sure. Love it. Doc says, don't have a side hustle, have a side helpful. Yeah, I love that. I love that for sure. Okay, let's keep going. I definitely want to, we're going to get to the next. Steve Worley's here. What's up, Steve? He's here too. Glad to see you. Super fun to see you guys here. Okay, so let's go to the next thing I want to talk about. We're talking about content strategy in 2022. So I talked about frequently asked questions, should have asked questions. Lauren was awesome. She talked about also meet those objections. An objection can be a content idea. The other thing that I like to do, and I mentioned this a little bit, is revisit old content. And what do I mean by this? Look at your analytics. Pay attention to the videos, the articles, the episodes, the podcast episodes, which ones are performing for you. And a lot of times older stuff is going to be performing. It's going to keep performing. So, okay, for example, there is a video on my channel that is the silliest. I think it's silly, but I am literally going to recreate it and I'm going to see how it works. The video is me. It's old school. It's old school Mel. Basically, I'm telling people and showing people how to use the Notes app on their iPhone to create a to-do list. That's simple. So you know what I'm going to do? That video literally has I don't know what it has now. Last time I looked, it had almost 12,000 views, which is a lot for me. That video is old, like 3 years, 4 years old. I think it's like 4 years old. Okay. That video continues to perform. Okay, interesting. That means people are interested in to-do lists or interested in apps for to-do lists. Why not take that exact same idea and just create a new version of it? Heck, the application I'm showing has changed. Why not take that same idea and create an updated 2022 version of that? Or take the idea and peel back a few different layers with it, right? So old content that performed well for you, you can resurface that idea and create a new version of that content. It's probably going to perform really well again. The objection that people always give me on this one, the one I always get, people say, well, what if they actually watched the old video and now I'm repeating myself? I have talked about this that I'm talking to you about right now. Frequently asked questions, customer journey, revisiting old content. I talk about this all the time. I have a podcast episode that is literally telling you frequently asked questions, should have asked questions, visit old content. I have done this before. Like I said, almost annually I talk about content, but y'all are here. Y'all are listening to it, right? I told you content ideas always perform well on my podcast. So I know people need to know about it. So what are the things that people constantly ask you? What are the old pieces of content that you've done? Make a new version of it. Don't sit there and say, well, I already did that. I can't do it again. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. Because the you yesterday is not the same you today. And then them yesterday is not them. In fact, the other thing you have to remember about old content is when you published it, some of those people watching your videos now had no idea who you were back then. None of you knew who I was back then. I'm going to tell you, if someone here is like, actually, that's the reason I joined your channel, I will send you a StreamYard sweatshirt. I swear I will. I will send you a StreamYard sweatshirt if you tell me and you can prove it or you're being truthful that video is the reason you're here. I will send it to you. Now, there's another video that I know that is why some of you are here. There's another video that's performed really well, and that video is me showing you how to connect two webcams to StreamYard without extra tech, without extra stuff. You simply open up a second browser, mute the microphone, use an inactive or muted speaker, and voila, you have two video inputs into your stream. That video also has done really, really well. So some of you are here because of that video. I know Purgatory Paranormal is here because of that video, I believe. So, it's one of those things. Revisit it. I will recreate that. I will do a tutorial that's better than the first one. And some of you will be like, oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. So your audience back then may be different. And here's the other thing. Let's say somebody was following you back then and they heard that episode or watched that video. They're not the same person today that they were when you did that episode last year. They've come along because your content's taking them on a journey. So them hearing it again, maybe they weren't ready to hear it then. Maybe they're ready to hear it now. So don't be afraid to revisit old content. Definitely love that strategy. Please don't think about that. Ooh, this is a great idea. Urban Van Life, this is a really, really good idea. He says, do a thumbnail revamp on old content that's underperforming. It will kick it back out there. This is actually something I did on my channel. I wasn't focused on thumbnails because I really, many of you know, I really was not a YouTuber. I wasn't striving to grow my channel. I was just using the platform to reach an audience. But then I was like, yeah, I should probably think about my thumbnails. So I actually went in and started to kind of change up some of my thumbnails. I went in and edited some thumbnails, and he's right. It does help. Thumbnails do matter. So if you've got some old content, think about updating the thumbnail and it might resurface it for sure. So I love that idea for sure. And Robin's making a great point. She says, I could watch the same video 10 times and still learn something new every time I watch it. Okay, so back to your prompts. We were talking about the customer journey. So you're in the mindset of your customer. You're going to write down frequently asked questions. You're going to write down should have asked questions. You're going to also think about those objections, because Lauren gave us that idea as well. But I also want you to make a task that you're going to go back. You're going to look at your analytics. You're going to look at your highest performing pieces of content, whether it be blog articles, podcast episodes, videos, social media posts, even Instagram posts. Okay. Wherever you're putting content out, look at all of them and look at what's performing really well. And then I want you to take those and I want you to come up with at least 5 new ideas from those old content pieces. So you're either going to recreate the content, modernize it, update it, or you're going to rehash it and you're going to peel back a few different layers and do it a little differently. So you can at least come up with 5 of those ideas from old content that performed really well. I definitely want you to do that. So you've got your tasks are to write down should have asked content, frequently asked content, frequently asked questions, should have asked questions, objections, and also old content that performed really well. Smackdown says, some people do the same thing for every video. That's kind of true. Oh, it's funny. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay. Shanta says, although I don't do live streams, I've been reviewing content this past week and working on my content strategy for social media posts and working on a blog. Love a recommendation of answering most frequently asked questions for posts and blogs. But I believe FAQ would be a great content for live stream as well. 100%. 100%. Totally. I totally 100% agree that the frequently asked questions is honestly where I always tell people to start. If you're creating a content strategy, if you're new to content, new to business, start with frequently asked questions. It is truly like one of the easiest places to start and also has a big impact. I'm here because you said there would be nuggets. Nuggets. I mean, I'm dropping nuggets all the time. Chicken nuggets. That's funny. No, not chicken nuggets. Love when Mike is here from Never Let the Machine Win. I love it. Love it. Okay. This is also good. Anna says, you also want to mention on your YouTube that you have a podcast. I had no idea that you have a podcast too. I do. And you know, it's funny because the last episode I put up, it actually is about the next few things I'm going to talk about. So the podcast is called the DIY Marketing School Podcast with Melanie Diane Howe. You can just search my name. It'll show up, or just search DIY Marketing School and it will pop up. You can also ask your smart devices to play that podcast and it will play it as well. But the podcast episode the last one I released is part of today's show as well. So again, I'm putting this strategy, I'm using this strategy myself. It has worked for me, which is why I want to share it with you as well. So I will keep that in mind. I will talk about my podcast more for sure. Okay. Luis says, I always thought rehashing was not a good thing. It's not for everything, Luis. Rehashing is not necessarily great in your personal life, but it's great for content. I love it for content. So, okay, next, let's go to the next nugget or the next thing. These are nuggets. These are bombs, right? These are good bombs. I hope they are. Okay, so here we go. The next thing I want to talk about is collaborations. Oh, like this is like so big. I'm going to tell you right now. I love this one so much. I got to play some music. Oh man. See, that one was like totally worthy of some just an extra pizzazz, right? A little extra sizzle, because honestly, collaborations, my big prediction for 2022 is people are going to be doing more collaborations because the technology is making it easier. Plus, honestly, it's just fun. And people, I think, are getting tired of doing things by themselves. I think the pandemic pushed a lot of people to create more content. But honestly, it's more fun to do things with others. It really is. And I know if Doc Rock is still here, he's done a ton of collaborations. He's got guests on his show all the time. James Hicks does a lot of collaborations. Eileen Smith, I know she's a guest in people. She's got collaborations. There's collaborating with others comes in many forms. Just find some people that you mesh with and gel with and find a way to work with them. Find a way to work together. Collaborations can look in different ways, but one way I want you to think about, how can you create a mutually beneficial collaboration? It might be that you co-host a show together. So maybe there's somebody that's in your space, they're doing the same thing, but they have a little bit of a different audience. Co-host a show together, talk about it together. Another type of collaboration is, do you have a membership? Do you have a course? Bring a guest in, let them teach about something in your program, and then you do the same for them. You can exchange. This is going to be a huge way for you to get exposure, but also to just meet a new audience. So collaborations are huge. So be thinking and be on the lookout. Who can you collaborate with? But also collaborate with others in your content ideation. And so ask your peers, ask your audience, collaborate with them on how to come up with the ideas for your content. So that whole exercise of frequently asked questions and should have asked questions. So for a lot of people in certain industries have little communities they're part of. Maybe you're part of a Facebook group of crafters. Maybe you're part of a Facebook group of tech people, video people. Use those groups and say, hey, I'm coming up with content ideas for 2022. I'm working on frequently asked questions. I know what mine are, but would you mind sharing what are questions you get asked all the time? Put them in the comments. Boom. You're going to see two things happen. Confirmation that your frequently asked questions are going to be gold because they're getting the same questions, and you might get some new ideas, right? So collaborating with others is actually a great strategy, not only in your content, but also in coming up with ideas, working together, getting more eyes on it, more heads together to create the energy to create the ideas. So I love collaborations. I'm going to be doing collaborations this year. Love it. Jennifer says, I am all about collaboration, working with others for sure. James says, to see Eileen Smith and Melanie Diane collab, that would be amazing. Eileen, let's make it happen. Let's do a show together. I would love to do a show together. Let's see here. This subject for me is kind of hard. I don't know a ton of people in my genre trying to do this right now. Okay, that's okay. So Lauren, you're in jewelry. Is that right? In jewelry. There are so many jewelers out there, but maybe if you don't feel like you have the network, then start working for the network. Here's a way to find people to collaborate with. Follow other people that do what you do or similar. They don't have to be exactly the same as you. So let's say, Lauren, a good collaboration could be the people who make the supplies of what you use. So Doug with SmackDown Outdoors, he has a lot of vendors on his show. So he literally will have the vendors, the people who make certain tackle, the people who make the equipment. He has them as guests on his show all the time. So they don't have to do exactly what you do, but they need to be in the world of what you do, right? In fact, I love when you can find someone that well, they don't do exactly what you do, but they're in that realm, but they can offer a totally different type of value to your audience, right? So they're bringing something else to the table, for sure. SmackDown says collaboration takes away competition. That's another kind of thing. I think that a lot of people get afraid about collaborations because they truly are like, no, why would I? No, I'm not going to bring they're my competitor. They're doing the same thing I'm doing. Please, come on. If that was the case, I wouldn't be hanging out with Luria Petrucci with Live Streaming Pros. I wouldn't be hanging out with Doc Rock. I wouldn't be hanging out with Eileen. I wouldn't be hanging out with all kinds of people, right? Because they're doing the same thing I'm doing. Kirk Nugent, wouldn't be hanging out with Kirk, right? One of my favorite people. Nope, that's not the way we think. Because guess what? We're all different. Doc Rock style, even though he's hilarious, he's not me. He's not me. And I'm not Doc, right? Eileen, same thing. James Smith, same thing, right? We all have different styles. People are going to learn from you in different ways. Many of you are subscribers of Live Streaming Pros, but you're also over here hanging out with me. In many ways, Lori and I do the same thing. We help people in a lot of the same ways. But that doesn't mean you're going to pick one or the other. And your audience is going to be the same way. So don't be afraid to work with people in your space. Now, if they're literally a direct competitor, maybe in your community, maybe find somebody a little different. But online, come on, the world is your oyster. What does that phrase even mean? I am really bad about saying phrases that I literally am like, what does that even mean? Where did that even come from? And sometimes you guys will Google it. If CK were here, she would Google it for us and be literally putting it in the comments for sure. Okay. All right. This is a great point though. Urban van life. You're dropping all kinds of golden bombs today. We get too many people wanting to collaborate with us, but sadly, they don't put the effort in. They just want a bigger channel to push them. It's hard to find the right people. That's a great point. So be thoughtful about how you're collaborating and who you're collaborating with. He's right. Sometimes people can become a bit moochy, meaning they're like, well, can I come on your, if they're pitching to you to come on your show, that's different. That's a little different. I want you to find people that you want to work with. So urban van life, I would say, look at the bigger, you're in one size pond, look down the river to the bigger size pond. Look in that pond and see who you can collaborate with, who can help you, who can lift you up, right? Let's see. And James is saying, yeah, you want to be really, really careful. That's a damn good point. Yeah. And James has had he's had a lot of experience with collaboration. So, for sure, he's probably got some nuggets he could drop there too. Eileen says, yes, let's do it. Eileen, I'm going to have you come on the show. Do you guys see this, by the way? Bad news. I broke my fingertip. I have an appointment Monday morning. It's probably going to require a screw. I'm like almost certain. And it sucks. It's my pinky. It hurts. It's like awful. I can't type. It's a mess. So yeah, you keep seeing this. It's because I last week or the other day streamed without it, and I think I did more damage. So we're wearing it. Got to wear it as much as possible. All right, checking in on you guys real quick. Yeah, okay, suppliers. So Lauren, yes, she's loving the suppliers for sure. Definitely wanting to. She definitely is getting. I love that, Lauren. You're here. You've been here since the beginning, and I love that you're still here and you're taking notes and you're ready to rock and roll here. So let's do this. Okay. All right, let me check in. I'm checking in on the rest of your comments before I go to the next thing. Okay. Yeah, there's no competition to personality. We all have our own and we do it different. Yes, exactly. So, it's from Shakespeare. See? And look, Robin and Cynthia are just popping it in here. So there you go. That's it. It simply means that everything is open to one. And if one is lucky, they could encounter something special. And it's from Shakespeare. So thank you, ladies. Appreciate that. All right. Okay, let's keep moving. We're going to keep moving for sure. So yeah, James made a funny, he says, shout out and props to MDH for consciously making the effort to know each of your real names and what it is you do. I do. I appreciate this so much. It actually just like, that warms my heart so much that you said that, because I really do. I want to know what everybody does. Like I do. I absolutely do. And when you guys keep coming back to the show regularly and consistently, if you're not, again, if you are liking what's going on here and you're not a subscriber, subscribe. I want you to come back because I love to get to know you. Like Doug at SmackDown Outdoors. I like to go pop in on people's stuff. He's actually part of the Facebook group. So if you're not already part of our Facebook group, join the Facebook group, because that is one of the other ways I get to know you. Doug has been posting in there about his equipment upgrades. The other day, he was like, I'm going to stream for the first time with the new stuff. And so I was like, I'm going to go check it out, make sure everything's good to go. And I popped in. I'm like, everything looks great. Looks awesome. Listened to about 5-10 minutes, and then I had to go. I love to check on you guys. I love to help you. I love to serve you. Some of you have been through my programs. Some of you are just here as audience members, but he's right. I do love to hear what you do. And one of the best ways that you can do that, to share with me who you are and what's going on, is to join that Facebook group. So just search DIY Marketing with Melanie. You'll find it over on Facebook. Answer the questions and introduce yourself. Let us know what you're doing. Let us know how we can help you. Post your questions, all that stuff. Okay, so in the same spirit of collaborations, like I said, we were just talking about sort of like partnering kind of a little bit and also helping each other, right? Those collaborating with content. But these are two very specific ways that I want you to think about how you're collaborating. Number one, I want you to have guests in your content. I 100%, this needs to be part of your 2022 strategy. You need to be thinking, who can you have on your podcast? Who can you interview? If you have a blog, so Shonda was talking about she had a blog earlier. Who can she interview? And literally put their picture there and put the question she asked, their answer, QA, 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 QA. That's an example of how you can have a guest in your blog. You can even have someone write a guest blog post. But if you have a video, who can you have on your show? If you're wanting to live stream and do these interviews, don't use Zoom. Gosh, like seriously, where is it? Don't use Zoom. Do not use Zoom to do the interviews. For your podcast, for your show, do not stream a Zoom interview. Use StreamYard, because StreamYard is 100% way better audio quality, way more fun. and a way better experience for your audience than Zoom. Okay, so don't use Zoom, but definitely have some guests in your content. If you don't use StreamYard, use whatever app you're using to have those guests in, but do not use freaking Zoom. Even if you have to use the free StreamYard account, use it because it's so much better. That was a little thing a little tangent I had to get out there. Little thing I had to get out. So I definitely want you doing that. But having guests, here's the deal. The guest in your content is 100% going to bring more value. Now, you aren't just going to have any guest. You're going to bring good guests. Okay. So that's the caveat to that whole comment. But here's the way I want you to think about. So if you've got your pen and paper, you're writing down, we know Lauren is, she's got her pen and paper. She's writing everything down. Write down at least 5 people, okay, that you can think of that you would like to have on your show. Now, if you can't think of specific people, then we're going to think about the types of people. Okay. So I already gave Lauren the idea of vendors, like suppliers. Great. So Doug, he has vendors on his show. He's like, ooh, sweet. By the way, Doug, do you know who Bama Bass is? Because that is literally who I've learned all my techniques with so many things from. Anyway, Bama Bass on YouTube. Love them. Anyway, you need to have them on your show. But anyway, so literally, guess when you talk less, it does take some steam off of you. It takes a little pressure off of you. Here's the deal. Think about vendors. Think about partners. Who are the subject matter experts that know more than you about something? For example, if I want to bring you a show and I want to talk about microphones, guess who I'm going to ask to come on my show? Sean Boyd, Doc Rock. That's who's coming on my show. He's going to come on the show. He's going to be nice. Okay. But he's going to talk about microphones. He knows so much about microphones and audio, right? He's somebody that I know I can reach out to and probably say, hey, will you come on my show and talk about mics? He's probably gonna say, heck yeah, come on, do it. And then he might say, you wanna come on my show and talk about StreamYard? I'll be like, sure, let's do it. Or you wanna come on my show and talk about Canva? Well, he actually is pretty good at Canva too. But where can you create a trade-off, right? But who are these people that you can find that know more than you? Hey, I can talk about microphones. I know enough to be dangerous. But why not bring a new face to the channel that knows even more than me, right? Why not do that? Buy me a coffee. I had James Hicks on the show. Literally, it was random. He was kind of in the comments and he was like talking about buy me a coffee. And I was like, I need to look into this, but all I know is like, it's kind of a way people can give you money to support you. And I was like, James, you should come on the show and talk about buy me a coffee because he was already using it. So he came on the show, he gave us a little demo, a little tutorial, and next thing you know, I set up my own buy me a coffee. The link is in the comments, by the way, if you want to support the channel. We can also test the alert to make sure that the alert I have set up is working because there should be an alert that pops up on screen if somebody buys me a coffee, also known as buy me tacos. But that was an example of somebody that knew something that I hadn't explored yet. I could have figured it out and like said, guys, I looked into buy me a coffee. Here's how it works. Totally could have done that. Why not give James the stage? Let him come to my audience. I'm bringing somebody else to the channel. There's 2 reasons you do this. Well, there's more, but these are the 2 main reasons. You are creating a break in the cadence. You are creating a little bit of an interruption. People who usually watch you show after show after show or listen to show after show after show, they're used to just you. But then all of a sudden they're like, oh, who's this special guest? Who's that person? They're like seeing the scroll like, oh, who's that person on with Mel? Or they see in the title, oh, Mel's got a guest on the show today. You're creating another layer of interest. You're also just mixing it up, right? I know that you're amazing and what you do is amazing and your content's going to be so amazing, but maybe people need to see a little variety, and that variety is helpful. The other thing is that it is going to grab more attention. And so you are probably going to see more views. The other thing is that guest that you have on your show is probably going to share your show, your content with somebody else. They're probably going to share it with their audience. They're probably going to be like, I was over on the show, SmackDown Outdoors, and I talked about this and that. Then they're going to be like, SmackDown Outdoors, interesting, channel I've never heard of. I'm going to check it out. Many of you you are here hanging out with me, right? Because you saw me on somebody else's show, or maybe I had somebody you follow as a guest on my show and they shared it to your channel. I know James has done a really great job of sharing my channel with his community and others have as well. So there's a creator in here that has shared my stuff with her community. So there's a lot of artists and creators in here because they've seen that. Literally, when you have a guest on your channel, they're going to share. And guess what? You're probably going to get new people, new exposure. So huge strategy that I want you to be thinking about. So if you can't think of people, then think of the kinds of people. Think of the level, the SMEs, the subject matter experts that you wish you want, right? Or the other thing is who are the dream people you want to have on your show? Who are the dream people, right? Think about that, and then find somebody that is very similar to that person, but maybe at the level that you're at that will come on your show, right? So 100% you should be doing that. The other thing that goes exactly right with this, totally in line, is go be a guest in other people's content too, right? So who can you have on your show, but whose show do you want to be on? Now, one thing I will tell you is often, depending on the relationship, depending on the content, many times when you have a guest on your show, they're going to be like, would you like to come on my show? So I'm getting ready to be a guest in Nika Stewart's membership. I am absolutely going to have her come on the show and talk to you all about creating viral content and short form content, because that's her current area of expertise. She's got lots of expertise, but many of you are like, who's Nika Stewart? Some of you are like, oh, Nika Stewart, I love her. I'm going to be a guest in her stuff, and she's going to be a guest in my stuff. So many times when you have a guest come on your show, they're going to actually ask you in return to come on their show too. That goes back to the collaboration style that we talked about. Now, this isn't going to happen every single time. So make sure it's a good fit. So if they say, would you like to come on my show? You want to make sure it's a good fit for you, right? And they may not ask you because their channel may be like totally different. I'm pretty certain that, for example, a channel that's, totally all church people, they're not going to ask me to come on the show because I talk about Tito's and sometimes I swear, but I don't know, maybe they don't care. I don't know. Maybe they don't care, but I'm just saying it's not always going to be a perfect fit for the exchange, but I do want you thinking about whose shows can you be on? So while you're writing down people you want to have on your show, also think about people that you're like, hey, I could actually probably help them, right? Like I said, I'd like to be on Eileen's show. I'd like to be on Doc's show. I'd like to be in some of these people's shows. So who can you reach out to and say, hey, we should do a collaboration. I would love to come on and talk about, I have these 3 ideas about what I could talk about to your audience. Do any of these sound interesting to you? That's the biggest thing I want you to think about when you approach someone is don't just say, hey, we should do some stuff together. I'd like to be a guest on your show. I want you to actually tell them what you think would be a good fit, give them at least 3 ideas to pick from, but also make sure you understand their audience. So you need to spend some time watching their content, paying attention to the comments so that you can make a decision that it's a good fit and that you can bring value. Don't just go find somebody and say, I want to be on your show just to be on your show, right? So do a little research and then do that too. So come up with 5 other areas where you could be a guest in their content. So that's another task item that you have on your list. Okay, so those were all the things. I'm going to quickly recap this. Okay, so we talked about starting with the customer journey, understanding where the customer is in the journey. If your content is talking about all this over here, but they're way back here, and you're talking way over their head, they're out, right? What is the journey? What do they need? Where are they stuck? How can your content takes them on a journey. It helps educate them. It gets them ready to a certain place to make certain decisions, right? Take them on the journey. All right. Your customer journey is really important. So you need to make sure you understand your audience and where they are. You get to know them by doing live videos and letting them ask questions. You get to know them by spending time in your Facebook group, actually in the comments, responding to as many of them as you can. Over time, you will get to know your audience and where they are, right? Interview them. Don't be afraid to say, hey, would you be willing to hop on a Zoom call so that I would love to learn a little bit more about your business and offer them a free consultation in exchange, right? Get to know them. You got to learn the customer journey. If you don't know your customer's journey, you might not be ready to create content because you're not sure what right content is to create. So always be thoughtful of that customer journey. Always be learning your customer's journey because it is always evolving as well, for sure. The next thing we talked about is I gave you a prompt. I said, let's write some things down. These are how you come up with content ideas. You're going to come up with 10 frequently asked questions. You're going to come up with 10 should have asked questions, which are the questions people aren't asking. And then Lauren gave us that awesome idea that you should come up with objections. What are the objections, right? And I talked about ice fishing because Doug was here. And I talked about how, I love to fish, but I'm like, ice fishing, I am not doing that. Why? It's too cold. I would be miserable. Why would I want to sit out in the freezing cold? That's an objection. Well, Doug can be like, I'm going to create content today that's going to talk about why ice fishing is actually not cold or doesn't have to be cold. And here are the solutions that are in the industry about why it's not cold when you go ice fishing. And you actually can be very warm. You can actually ice fish in your bathing suit if you really want to. I'm not sure if you can, but I've seen pictures. So I'm assuming you can. There you go. And the other thing we talked about is revisiting old content. Don't be afraid to go back. Look at your analytics. What podcasts perform well? What blog posts perform well? What videos performed well? Look at them. Find the top 5. Find 5 ideas and revisit it. Either recreate it, modernize it, refresh the idea, okay, hey, a few years ago, I did this thing, but the app has changed. Well, do a new one. Or take that same concept, that same idea, and peel back a few different layers, do it a little differently, right? Revisit old content. Everything I'm sharing in today's show, in this training, is not new. I have talked about every single one of these things in my past content for 100%, right? So your old content can still be valuable when you revisit it. So don't be afraid to revisit old content. Come up with at least 5 ideas from revisiting old content. I want you to be thinking about collaborating with others. Now, collaborations come in many different forms. You can talk about doing an exchange in a program, like a paid program. Totally, like create a module for somebody's course, have them create a module for your course, go be a guest on somebody's, virtual event, do those types of things. But the other thing specifically for your content is I want you to have guests in your show. I want you to have guests on your podcast, guests write articles in your blog, any of those things. So come up with 5 names or 5 types of people that you want in your content. And then in turn, also go strive to be a guest in other people's content. How can you be a guest? What can you offer? What value can you bring to somebody else's channel or somebody else's podcast or whatever it might be? Go ahead and build these relationships. Be networking online. Be in the comments. Be active. And then find these people and either totally create a pitch or just start creating a relationship. Have a relationship with these people and then eventually say, hey, I'd love to come on your show. Go be a guest. Seek these opportunities. Make sure that it's people are aware that you are willing to be a guest in their content. One of the ways is to keep being a guest in people's content. I will say this, starting with having guests in your own show is probably the place to start if this is brand new to you, because when people see that you have guests on your show, they are naturally going to be like, they will probably be a good guest on my show, and they understand how the process works. You're more likely to get asked. So start out by having guests on your show. You'll find that those opportunities may just come knocking on your door. So that's definitely key for sure. So, okay. I definitely appreciate you guys so much. This has been a lot of fun. But the last thing I want to tell you, everything I just talked about, you need to write it down. So some of you might be multitasking. Some of you might be driving. I don't know. Some of you are, in and out. Maybe you're catching the replay. Make sure that you spend some time to write it down. I don't care how you write it down, to be honest with you. I personally think that whatever works for you, whether it's a pen and paper on a notebook, I personally like to use Trello when I am in the brainstorming phase, because I can just create these cards and just add these things to it. So Trello is an application you should totally check out. I also like using project management applications like Asana when I'm ready to create the plan and the dates. Asana is so awesome when it comes to plotting things into a calendar, actually having dates assigned to them so that you can create these ideas. All these ideas we talked about today, you literally, if you truly sit down, spend the time and do this exercise. Earlier I said come up with 10 frequently asked questions. You're probably going to come up with 15. Okay? You are literally going to be able to take this stuff and come up with at least 50 ideas. 50 ideas for content. I know you can. So then what I want you to do is I want you to look at it and decide, well, what makes sense to do when and where? And then I want you to put it down into a plan. Whether it is a list, whether it's a freaking actual physical calendar printed that you write on or an application, I don't care. Somewhere you have to put this down out of your head into another space. Because if you don't, you will lose it. Sometimes I will literally have an idea. I will literally get out of the shower and I'll have an idea. I have a Sharpie or a dry erase marker in my drawer and I will write it on the mirror. Because I'm telling you, I've done it. I know enough. I'm like, I had a really good idea this morning. What was it? Oh, what's it about? You're busy. Your head is busy. You got a lot going on. You have a lot of things. You have a big to-do list. You got kids. You got all kinds of things. You got 3 jobs, whatever it might be. You're busy. Your brain is busy. When you're in the zone of coming up with these content ideas, you are truly in the zone. So use that time and write it down. Because the other thing that's going to happen is when you come back to that piece of paper and you do this again, you will find if you don't write these things down, you'll be rehashing. You're wasting mental energy. So writing it down lets you put it down and you're like, okay, sweet, that idea is taken care of. And then honestly, when you look at that list, you're going to look at it again and be like, oh, remember how I took that one idea, the question that Lauren gave us earlier when I said, what are some should have asked questions? And it was about the color not fading on the jewelry. And I came up with 4 content ideas from one should have asked question. So when you write this stuff down, you are actually going to be able to now free up your space to take each item and maybe break it into multiples. And that's typically the way this process works. It's kind of like that snowball effect. So definitely write it down and then revisit the list and keep working the list. Okay, so don't just feel like you're coming up with the ideas and you're ready to go. Keep revisiting the list and keep going with it. Poof, it's gone. Yeah, Louise says, poof, it's gone. Smackdown, Doug says, I keep notebooks all over my house just in case I have an idea, including next to my bed. Yes, I love the idea of having some sort of notebook or something next to your bed, because honestly, the middle of the night happens and you'll have an idea. I swear to God, I work in my sleep. I will literally wake up and be like, oh my God, I just figured out what I need to do about that problem. Write it down. Have a piece of paper right next to you. Write it down because you will forget it. It will go away, right? This is a really good idea. Mark says, remember to date and time all the notes. I actually like this, and here's why. I was actually revisiting. I'm not really one to journal. To be honest with you, I don't journal regularly, but I do journal sometimes. I sometimes tend to journal when I'm just feeling deep about something or when I'm needing to just kind of like think through some thoughts. But I was looking through some of my old journal entries, and I do put dates on them. And it was interesting. There was a page where I wrote down like things I wanted to happen. I wasn't really manifesting, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is all happening now. Like it's all coming to life. It's all happening now. And it was really fun to read back, but also to think about when it happened. But I do like the idea of dating your notes for this stuff because honestly, it's honestly just fun. Because one of the fun things or crazy things that happens to me is I'll have ideas and then I will like find an old notebook and I'll be like, oh, look, there's an idea that I had in 2015 and I'm doing that now. Like, it's just kind of fun to see when things actually happen for sure. So Steve, I just saw this funny comment from Stevie. Oh my God, she's Doc's government name. Yeah, I'm probably going to get in trouble for that one, aren't I? But okay. Let me see. I saw a question somewhere. Caleb, hello, Caleb. Are you using just camera bokeh or blur from? Oh, so no, I'm using my camera, but guess what? There's 2 new features that I will talk about real quick because they're really awesome. One is the cropped solo layout has come out. So the cropped solo layout, if you're in your StreamYard studio and you go to the settings tab at the bottom, you will see a tab that says layouts. And when you click that, boom, now we all have this extra option for the solo layout, which brings your background out. I like this layout for a couple reasons, because honestly, it gives me some real estate. If I wanted to put like a header up here and I didn't want to cover my head, here's why I like it. It didn't crop in. It's not an overlay. It actually just made my webcam view smaller. And so it created this extra real estate. But you know how sometimes you guys have huge comments, lots of great things to say, and the comment will come up and it almost comes to the bottom of my chin. This gives me more space. There's more space at the bottom for that type of content to go. So that's cropped layout. But what Caleb is referring to, I don't think this is going to break anything. Let me make sure. So what Caleb's referring to is I'm going to go to my crappy webcam, because you're not going to really see much of a difference. The bokeh, what he's referring to there is blurry background. That's from my special lens and my fancy camera. But if I go to my crappy webcam, this is the Logitech 920 we got going on here. This is the old school. This is the old school one right here, okay? So if I go to this, doesn't look that great, right? But if I go to the same place, your camera and mic settings, you are going to see virtual background. You now don't have to have a green screen, meaning I can make fire in the background if I really want to. It takes a minute. There's some fire for you, right? But it's not the best. But the blur, I do recommend if you're using one of these sort of like basic USB webcams, watch the difference when I click blur. Hold on. There. It looks better. Don't you think? I think this looks better than what it looked like before. Oh, I gotta look at the right camera. But having that kind of blurred background, now you don't want to move around a lot. If you're going to use the virtual background, you don't want to move around too much. It is going to cause a little bit of an issue. But I do like this. So if you're using a Logitech 920, even maybe a Stream Cam, maybe even the Elgato Face Cam, and you're using StreamYard, check and see if this blurred background improves the look of your stream. Now, again, when you move around, it kind of does sometimes gets a little wonky, but try it out. See if you like it. See if it's what you're looking for. Oh. Okay, I'm back. Okay, sorry. See, that's what I messed up. I screwed up. I clicked the wrong thing, and then it got all messy with my OBS. So, but I'm back. All right, that's one thing I love about StreamYard is sometimes you got to leave and come back, and it doesn't close your stream down. So, that was a little scary. A little scary. All right. Let's see. Shauna says, does anyone use a calendar for find out what national holiday is today to create promotions or content? There is actually, you can subscribe to some of those things, those calendars that will give you those holidays. There are a lot of them. You can actually Google, there's today, National Day of. That's also something you might think about. That's certainly something to consider. So, okay. Well, hello, Love Audio Production. Welcome to the stream. We're kind of like, we're closing it down here. We talked about, oh wait, I did see a question. James says, I'd love to have an MDH session on building that collateral, templates for show invites, pitching your show, run of show, etc. Okay, definitely cool. I may actually ask a few people to help me out with that one because there are some people out there, in my opinion, that do a better job of this than me. In fact, Kirk Nugent he does a really good job. He has so many guests on his show. I was really impressed when I was on his show, his process. So I may even ask Kirk to come on and talk to us about it too. And anybody else that feels like they have some good tips there. But yeah, we can definitely talk about that because I will say that having a process when it comes to those collaborations and when it comes to those guests, that is kind of an important thing that you have to kind of think about too, because the more you have people or other elements to what you're doing, it does add a little bit. It adds more work. It does. So, it's not just, texting somebody and saying, come on my show. And then it's like, they're there. Now, some people you can do that with, but you're going to need to have a conversation with them. You're going to need to set them up. You might need to do a little training with them to let them know how the platform works. And then you might need to have a tech check. There's definitely some extra layers in there. You're going to need to get their image, their photo, their bio. There is more work to be done. But again, James makes a great point. Coming up with a process so that you can repeat that process is going to make that easier for you. So that's a really great idea, James, for sure. Thank you for providing that idea for me today. That was a good one. All right. Man, I'm getting that tickle in my throat. So again, if you guys are just tuning in or if you tuned in kind of later in the stream, we talked about building a content strategy in 2022. And I shared all kinds of tips and ideas with how you can sit down, write down, come up with all those great ideas. We talked about the customer journey, and then I gave you some strategies to come up with ideas. I know in my heart that this works because I've worked with enough clients. I've worked with enough students in my programs. I've done it for myself. I know it works. So if you've been spinning your wheels, if you've been racking your brain trying to come up with new ideas, sit back, watch the replay, grab a pen and paper, maybe a cocktail, maybe a tea or a cup of coffee, and use the pen and paper and put this plan into action. I know that it works. It will work for you. It's worked for me and it's worked for so many others. So definitely check that out. Do that for sure. Check out the replay. And again, as usual, this was powered by StreamYard. I love the StreamYard application. It is absolutely my streaming platform of choice. I'm a partner with StreamYard. So if you use that link down there, melaniediane.com/StreamYard. Click on any of the buttons on that page to sign up, and that will be my partner link, which will get you a 14-day free trial. You can also just go directly to the link in the comments or the description of this stream where you're watching, and that will take you directly to a page where you can sign up for your account. You'll get 14 days to try the professional plan, and after that, you just go back to a free plan, and you can use the free plan. It's awesome. There's so much stuff in the free plan. Even you can share your screen, have guests do all those cool things, and create better live streams for sure. So, and if you found this helpful today, you can also support me over on Buy Me a Coffee. That link is also in the description at buymeacoffee.com/Melanie Diane. And I like to call it tacos because I love tacos. And so if you want to buy me some tacos to support the channel, I would greatly appreciate it for sure, of course. And I will be back again next week, but not on Tuesday, because as I mentioned, next week is the Expand Your Reach Summit that Live Streaming Pros is putting on. My good friend of mine, good mentor of mine, Luria Petrucci, is putting on this virtual summit. It's going to be absolutely incredible. These are just a few of the speakers, myself included. There are so many amazing speakers. I cannot wait, but I will not be able to stream on Tuesday because I'm also going to be helping Luria behind the scenes doing tech checks for all the speakers. So I get to talk to all these amazing people next week as well. So I'll probably be going live on Monday. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that you don't miss out on when I do go live. And again, thank you so much. We're going to have an amazing year together. 2022 is going to be incredible. I just feel it in my heart and in my bones. And I'm so thankful for all of you who always join us all the time, every week. And until next time, I will be seeing you all later. So go have a great weekend. It's Friday. It's almost Tito's time over here. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.